Today's guest is Wally Amos, known for his tasty chip and cookie cookies, and more recently recognized as a literacy advocate who shares a story called Chip and Cookie about two chocolate chip cookie dolls.
So, Wally, it seems like the social mission you picked for your business initially became your actual mission that your business now seems to support.
Well, it is interesting. When I started Famous Amos, I knew I was going to get involved in something. I didn't know that it was going to be adult literacy. Turned out to be adult literacy. And now, we decided, my wife and I decided before we launched the company that children's literacy would be our focus. Reading is a child's first subject. A parent is a child's first teacher. Therefore, reading aloud very clearly is early childhood development. So we decided before we launched the company that would be the case, and it's all factored into our operating agreement, and so it's the only way to go. I've never felt so committed and so definite about doing something in all my life.
So where did this whole thing get started? This Famous Amos cookie thing, your career, you ended up in Hawaii. How did this come about?
Well, Famous Amos started, I guess almost 31 years ago now in Hollywood, California. March 10th, 1975, I opened the first store in the world selling only chocolate chip cookies. That happened because I loved chocolate chip cookies. And I'd been in show business. I was an agent at William Morris for about 7 years. I was the first agent of Simon and Garfunkel and Marvin Gaye and the Supremes, and I worked with a lot of rock acts during the 60s. And then I gave that up and moved to Hollywood, California, became a personal manager. And it was then that I started making chocolate chip cookies for therapy and just for the good of having a chocolate chip cookie when I wanted one, And I'd go to meetings and I'd share my cookies. I had actors and actresses that were working on TV shows and recording sessions and whatnot. And every time I'd show up, I'd always give everybody cookies. And people would always say, hey, man, you ought to sell these cookies. You ought to sell these cookies. Man, I was in show business. I knew I was going to be a big-time show business manager, have a great big stable of clients. And, I wasn't about to give that up on the thought of selling cookies. Get out of there. But finally, in 1974, show business I'd soured on show business and needed something else to do, and I didn't know what that was.
Was it burnout or what happened?
It was burnout. It was just, I was never comfortable in show business. I was always in it, but as I tell people, never necessarily feeling that I was a part of it. I always felt like I was on the outside looking in so much of the time. And so finally I could not relate to the business anymore and many of the people in it. And it was not satisfying. It was not fulfilling. So I had to find something else to do. I had no idea what that was going to be, but I was with a friend one evening, B.J. Gilmore, and B.J. was Quincy Jones' secretary. And our offices were adjacent, my office and Quincy's, at A&M Records, because I managed a couple of clients that recorded for A&M Records. And I produced one client, a guy named Franklin Ajayi, who's a comedian, and I did his first two comedy albums. So B.J. and I having dinner one evening, and, I've been thinking for a few months about what am I going to do and where am I going to go and blah, 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 blah. And B.J. said, I've got a friend. No, first of all, she said, we should open a store selling cookies. It's because she knew that I was toying around maybe with the idea. And she said, we ought to open a store selling cookies. Maybe, and then, but she followed that with, I've got a friend that I can get to put up the money. Well, when she said that, I said, let's go, let's do it. And it was really that evening. It was about October 21st, 1974, somewhere around there, that I actually made the commitment to open one store selling cookies, not a chain, not to be famous, but to do something that I really loved, that I was passionate about. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned in life, man, and that is doing what you love, doing what you feel good about, doing what you're passionate about. If you do that, then everything else will follow. And that started, and 5 months later, I opened the world's first store selling chocolate chip cookies.
Thank you, Wally. We'll talk more about that after our break.